I mean, are there certain things, certain lifestyle things that really change, that could really increase cancer?
Of course, there are known exposures. I mean, things like cigarette smoking that increase a person's risk of cancer. But there are many other carcinogens as well in our environment. So some things that we can't control, some foods. It can be a little bit different for different cancers. So there's not a one size fits all prescription for diet, but a lot of the recommendations to help reduce one's cancer risk are really basic common sense, like eating fruits and vegetables, not eating processed meats, those kinds of things.
Well, chemotherapy, that was always known as like the go-to treatment from cancer. But from what I understand, that's taking a back seat to some other treatments. Is that true?
It depends on the cancer you're talking about. Chemotherapy still has a really big role in certain cancers, but I think what people would want to know is that we have so many more types of treatments that are so much less toxic that have been developed because we understand the science, we understand what's happening at the cancer cell level, and then we can design specific treatments that will preferentially kill the cancer cell and do much less collateral damage than something like chemotherapy. So there are targeted therapies that do that for certain cancers. And then a big focus at City of Hope is immunotherapy, which is trying to harness your body's own immune system, which is really good at eradicating things like viruses and bacteria, and is just not able to see cancer all the time because it starts out as part of us. But there are different ways we can activate the immune system to actually recognize that the cancer needs to be eradicated. And it's very powerful when we can leverage some of these immunotherapies.
Just to speak as a patient, one of the things that I discovered in my cancer diagnosis was that I did have options of how I wanted to go about treating the cancer. And, people have various points in life where they may choose one option or the other based upon age, whether they've had children, all sorts of things. And I was really shocked. I thought when I was diagnosed that it would be, here's the solution and this is the only solution. But the team at City of Hope actually laid out multiple options for me, and I sat with my family and we chose a direction.
Right, because you had prostate cancer, which is one of the more scary cancers, right?
I think they're all scary.
They're all scary, but certain
Yes.
ones, skin cancer is less scary
But
than
early
prostate cancer.
detection.
Yeah.
Early detection is the key.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what was scary for me in my story was that both my father and his younger brother, my uncle, both have metastatic prostate cancer.
Wow.
My father's was caught relatively early, but it did metastasize. And he was, he died of an unrelated cause, but his life was definitely impacted by the treatment that he had to go through for cancer. And then my uncle, within a year of him telling us that he was sick, we were burying him. And what was scary for me was recalling all that when you're told you have cancer, right? And the trauma that you have mentally, I almost feel that cancer is just as tough physically as it is mentally.
Yeah.
But the team at City of Hope, and as a board member, I've been next to it for a long time, as I've mentioned, to be a patient there and to recognize that their patient care team is just as it states in the brochures, documents, and fundraisers was everything to me as a patient. And it really helped assist me and my family in getting through this.
This is a little campus that started, 100 years ago. And now it's grown. It's an enormous campus. And it's constantly building new facilities. And also, because they've been focused on cancer, they are focused not simply on the cure, but also how to treat a patient, how to teach early detection, how to treat patients, how to bring them along through the experience, how to deal with the families. This is a comprehensive organization that is dedicated to eradicating cancer, but also trying to make sure that the families and the individual has the best type of care.
When we talk about eradicating cancer, is that a real thing in the future for certain types of cancers? Maybe even for all cancers?
It's absolutely already possible for certain cancers.
Okay.
And as we've,
For example, which cancers can be eradicated?
so for instance, testicular cancer is
Really?
one where we can cure with
Yes.
chemotherapy and affects young males.
Okay. Are you okay though after going through chemotherapy? I mean, in that section?
Well, so to your point, we do focus a lot on survivorship. You know, it's not enough that we can cure these patients, but we want to do it with the minimal risk, especially in a young gentleman for his long-term health, whether it's cardiovascular health or fertility. And so it's really important, and something that I think comprehensive cancer centers do particularly well, to think about the whole person and their whole cancer journey arc, and not just be in the moment of curing, which is of course where we start, but there's so much more than that. But there are other cancers as well that can now be cured with immunotherapies, and of course with early detection, traditional treatments like surgery or radiation treatment can be curative.
You hear about like nanotechnology of sending in little tiny robots into a body to kind of like burn away all the cancers. Is this science fiction or is this a real thing?
There's a lot of research, but we're not using it in the clinic yet.
Okay. But you know what I'm talking about though, right?
Mm-hmm, sure.
But in my case, I actually had a robotic, as I was saying. So
Oh, you did?
bigger robot.
Yeah, I did have a robotic procedure.
So how did it work?
It was wild. I mean, when you're told you have cancer, you start to go down this rabbit hole,
Yeah.
right, of Google and Reddit,
Right.
right, which in some cases is good, in some cases is bad. But at the end of the day, like we've been talking about, you're looking for education. And even though I was around cancer through my father and my uncle's journeys, I wasn't, I'm not academically aware of what I was getting ready to be going through. And one of the options was a robotic prostatectomy. And I initially had thought it was just maybe a certain kind of machine that the doctor would be using over me. And I saw a video actually on TikTok of this surgery being done, which was remarkable. I mean, I have 6 incisions on my stomach, and I had 6 prods put into me. And my doctor was in the corner of the room, almost, the only thing I can describe it is that it's like gaming.
Huh.
He was in this booth, with the video I saw, they're in the booth basically performing this procedure, because it's essentially microsurgery, which, as the doctor will explain to you, it's all about getting these margins and getting all the cancer out, but not getting too much out to where you can impact the wiring, if you will.
Yeah.